Hello! Version 24.2 is the second minor release of version 24. This means that there are no more fixes or service packs for the previous minor release of version 24.1. In this video, I will give you an overview of the new features introduced in 24.2. Just as always, there is also a documentation page that lists all the new features. First, let's take a look at the new features within the AWI. The most noticeable new feature in the AWI is the new Help function. It is called Integrated Help, or in some places also ICE. Here are the most important points about Integrated Help. Clicking on the question mark icon directly opens the help for the current view, and not in a new browser tab, but as a side-by-side window in the same browser tab. You can access not only the product documentation, but also other helpful resources, such as YouTube videos, the Broadcom Automic community, or the Academy. The search function allows you to configure which sources to search. Besides, now there is an integrated AI assistant to answer your questions in natural language. At the time of the video recording, this assistant is only available as a preview and can answer only a few questions. Integrated help can also be deactivated in case if you want to return to the previous mode of operation. AWI has a new additional configuration file for ICE called ipce.properties. The second enhancement in the AWI that I want to show you is not so obvious, but it's actually a very useful feature. You can now use the transport case directly from the AWI. The import function now also accepts files in the transport case format. And in the transport case folder, the export can be initiated directly from the AWI. Both functions are only available to users with the existing access to transport case privilege. Since all new functions use the REST API as a backend, the transport case also works via the REST API since version 24.2. The AWI has a new section in the user settings and in the object definitions of user objects, namely tokens. However, this is actually less of an AWI feature and more of a REST API feature, which I will discuss later in the video. In addition, there are also some less visible changes in the AWI. Accessibility has been further improved so that, for example, screen readers are now even better supported. The action builder in process assembly has received a small filter function. Also, you may remember the checkboxes from the rename dialog that were previously displayed when it found uses of the object. These checkboxes are no longer there. Version 24.2 brings a useful enhancement to increase the security of SQLi Vara objects. From now on, the administrator can configure which database user is used to access the database. Previously, SQLi Varas used the engine's database connection, which means that they had full write access to all tables. With the SQLi login option in UC system settings, you can specify a login object with the credentials of a dedicated database user. In this way, the administrator can protect the database from unauthorized write access. In the second section of the video, we are going to take a look at the REST API. In this minor release, the REST API receives some new extensions. We will start with the user tokens that I mentioned earlier. This is a new way to log in to REST API. Until now, REST API has only supported basic authentication. From version 24.2, you can also authenticate yourself with the so-called bearer tokens. These tokens can be created in the AWI in the user settings or right in the user object. They can also be generated directly via the REST API. A token always has a validity period. The maximum validity period of a token is set by the admin. Each user can only create tokens for themselves. This requires the new token access and token creation privilege. I have already mentioned another addition to the REST API. The import and export of the transport case is now also possible with REST API. For this new feature, the AWI uses the REST API as a backend. Authorizations and privileges for users and user groups can now be configured via the REST API. In addition, the REST interface now also provides access to authorizations at the object level. Lastly, there are some new endpoints. Agent groups can be disconnected. The Zero Downtime Upgrade, or ZDU for short, can now also be controlled via the REST API. This gives you an overview of the changes and new features that version 24.2 brings along. There will be separate videos for one or two major changes. In case if you are an admin, why don't you order the latest test lab and try out the new functions straight away? Thank you for watching